Well, the penultimate episode of Fargo Season 5 has been and gone, and it's safe to say that the season finale is well and truly set up to be an explosive one where it could quite literally go in any direction. Following the powerful episode last week where we saw Roy's true colors around Dorothy and him keeping her hostage at the ranch, this episode saw preparations for war between Roy Tillman, his followers, and the FBI and police force. With this episode potentially being the biggest one of the season so far, let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from it. Here is Fargo Season 5 Episode 9 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Roy Tillman's changing in front of our eyes. Within this episode of the show, we learned even more about Roy, and whilst he's a completely evil, weak human being, we saw that within his own mind he's starting to question the situation at hand, and if he's going to be able to win the war that he set. With regards to the evil nature of Roy, we saw that his third wife Karen had bruises on her face when we saw her in this episode, and that it was most likely a result of what followed in the previous episode, showing that he was taking out his anger from Dorothy on her. We saw this taken a step further within this episode too, where after Dorothy attacked her and left her lying on the floor in the bedroom, when Roy was looking for Dorothy, he didn't care in the slightest that Karen was lying on the floor unconscious and injured, showing the lack of care that he actually has for the people that he's supposed to care the most about. This was also present at the end of the show where he was given Gator back by Ole in a state where he was blinded, and he turned to his son and basically said that whatever he thought that he was originally useful for wasn't the case anymore, and then walked off, leaving him alone in an open space where he didn't have any idea where he was. The vulnerability that was present in Gator in that moment was something which I felt, and the fact that Roy just left his son out there with no way of getting back due to not being able to see only added to the hideous personality that Roy has, and the fact that he cares for nobody but himself. We also got glimpses of the attack that he carried out on Dorothy, and it was really hard to watch. Albeit it was just a blink and you'll miss it moment, but it did more to show just how much of an awful person that he was. This whole season has been about Roy wanting one thing, his wife back, but things have just been gradually getting worse and spiraling out of control. Like all Coen Brothers movies, they start small and then avalanche into something that you couldn't possibly imagine. And this has happened with Roy in this season of the show, as he has a war on his doorstep from multiple fronts, with the FBI and also with Ole. Plus he's committed multiple murders in the process, so his time is definitely nearing the end, and I think he knows it. With Roy's father-in-law Odin asking him if he was in the Reichstag or if he was in the bunker, it also reinforced the fact and the idea that he felt as though Roy was digging a ditch just to die in, and that this was an "I'll go out with a bang" rather than a meticulous plan. So it showed that the support that Roy originally had was something that's also dwindling down and he's losing control of. Roy told Odin to not do anything unless he gave his orders, but I feel Odin is most definitely going to be going against Roy's orders, which could result in a shootout taking place and there being catastrophic casualties. Roy commanding his troops to kill Dorothy showed that he found himself in a situation where I think he was regretful. Like what Karen said in the previous episode, Dorothy was like a bad omen to them and had caused trouble to their doorstep, more than what he could have possibly ever realized. So I feel he just wanted the problem gone, and with her gone, he wouldn't have the worry, fear, or jealousy of her being happy out there with somebody else. Ole Munch. Ole has been one of my favorite characters and parts of this show. His metaphors are something which are always so thought-provoking, and it provides a deeper meaning to the actions that he carries out. The first section focused on Ole and the fact that he had Gator held hostage in the most remote shed that you could possibly find. The contrast of the cold, barren outside to the blazing fire and the intimate nature was a nice touch, and you felt the warmth that would have been inside of there. Gator tried to bribe Ole with money, women, and weapons, but there was nothing that was going to stop him. We heard Ole use the term an eye for an eye, and because Gator killed the woman that offered nothing but kindness to Ole and letting him stay at her house, he felt it was his obligation to seek revenge for her death and get an eye for an eye in a literal sense. Ole stuck a hot blade into Gator's eyes and essentially rendered him blind. After this, he dragged him to the ranch where he gave Gator back to his father, and he said the line, "The hand that he steals with must be cleaved from him and returned. It's still a hand but without function." This is referring to Gator being the hand of Roy. Gator stole the money from Ole, and also stole the person that was being kind to him. Back in the day, capital punishment saw thieves having their hands chopped off if they were caught thieving, hence why Ole said this line. So with Gator now being rendered blind, he knew that Roy would deem him as useless, as he wouldn't be able to work for him anymore. So the metaphor and the saying tied into the situation perfectly, as Roy did quite literally abandon his son from that moment. There was such a good moment at the end of the episode where Ole freed Dorothy from the grave after killing the people that were closing in on her. Hearing him say to fight a tiger in a cage, it's not a fair fight, and then helping her out, handing her the weapon and saying, now the tiger is free. It put a massive smile on my face when watching it. Two people who originally tried to kill each other in the first episode were now joined due to there being a common enemy, which was Roy Tillman. Ole wants Roy dead just as much as Dorothy does, hence the assistance and change of sides. So it was a moment that I was really pleased to watch unfold. Lorraine Lyon. The army showing up at Roy's ranch was pretty much because of Lorraine. We saw that Indira was now working for Lorraine as head of security, and she saw that Danish's phone pinged near the ranch the last time that it was seen switched on, which made her reach out to the authorities to send in troops to see what was going on. Once Dorothy managed to escape, she managed to speak to Lorraine on the phone, and Lorraine said to her that no daughter of mine is going down. This was when Dot mentioned that she was worried that she wouldn't make it out. This is a complete contrast to what we saw during the opening episodes of the season, where Lorraine didn't think that Dot was good enough for her son Wayne. Ever since Lorraine got the file on Dorothy, which showed the suffering that she endured at the hands of Roy, and she also saw how much of a fighter she was and that she was lucky to be alive because she managed to escape the dangerous grasp of him. She sympathized with her ever since, and saw that she was good enough for her son to be with. The fact that she referred to Dorothy as her daughter was a massive moment, and it was supported by the way that Dorothy reacted when she called her that. Overall review. I thought this episode was a really good one. I was worried it was going to be a bit slow, but after only a couple of minutes it kicked into gear and it did a great job at setting up the season finale. After looking at the trailer for the final episode, it looks like Roy could be getting what's coming to him, but that's only based off of one of the shots. With Gator being abandoned by his father, I'm intrigued to see if Dorothy is going to help him in his moment of need, and if that will be Gator's turning point on his father. I could see that being the case. Juno Temple has absolutely smashed her role in Fargo, and I think she's been so convincing as Dorothy Lyon. I've felt the fear, strength, love for her family, and burning desire to just survive, and I've been rooting for her 100% of the way. I think the same also has to be said for Jon Hamm as Roy Tillman. His evil depiction of the character has been phenomenal, and I don't think anybody could have done it better. The foggy scenes in this episode were absolutely gorgeous to look at, and they really added to the ominous nature and tone that this episode was going for. It was definitely the nicest looking episode, and even the differentiation from the thick mist when Roy was facing Ole to the slightly warmer mist when Ole was facing Dorothy, almost showing that the light was coming through and the tides were turning, was a really nice touch. The past 3 episodes of the show have elevated Season 5 massively. From the episode with the puppets to now, it's just been so engaging, a lot more emotionally investing, and I've been on the edge of my seat from start to finish. I said at the start of this season that the show would need all 10 episodes to be able to tell the story well, and that's exactly the case. Often shows put out between 6 to 8 episodes, and sometimes that's okay, but it definitely wouldn't have worked with this, so I'm glad we got the classic 10. With only 1 episode to go, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the finale. Bring it on. So, there you have it, Fargo Season 5 Episode 9 Ending Explained. After this season has finished, I'm thinking about doing a breakdown on the original Fargo movie. If it's something that you're interested in watching, then let me know in the comments below. What did you think of this episode? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.